At the opening of.
Fremont? Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Okay, folks, can we stop the talk? We're going to begin now. Welcome to the Leap Day version of the Transit Riders Council. Once every 4 years, unless it's not the day of the week when we normally meet, and then we wouldn't have it then. So, as we have a quorum, can we get an approval of today's agenda?
I so moved.
Thank you.
Second,
How about the minutes? Any changes, additions?
make a motion to approve.
Second. Okay. We're gonna get right into my report, which is a different kind of report today. You probably heard on the news with the lawsuits about congestion pricing and the unsure day of its start. Much of the capital program has been put in suspension. We're talking about major projects. Just as an example, we're talking about installation of CBTC on the A and C along Fulton Street in Brooklyn. Installation of CBTC along the 6th Avenue line, the BDF&M in Manhattan, which is a real kick in the teeth because it has progressed along Queens Boulevard and along the Culver line, but if you don't have it along 6th Avenue line, it's kind of worthless. We need the entire line to be modernized. We have a host of stations that would have been made accessible, but now are suspended, which are Brook Avenue on the 6th, 3rd Avenue and 138th on the 6th, Cambridge Road on the 4th, 157th Street, I'm sorry, 167th Street on the D, Wakefield on the 2-5, end of the line. Wow. That was going to be made accessible. Hoyt Skirmahorn, a very busy station in downtown Brooklyn. Neptune Avenue on the F, 18th Avenue on the D, Nostrand on the A and C, Jefferson Street on the L, 145th Street on the A, B, C, D, which, as you know, if you use it ever, is a very deep station because the 6th Avenue lines are on the lowest level, so you're really below the street. That station could really need to be made accessible. The 59th Street and Lexington complex on the 5-6 NRW. Yep, I knew you would love that one. 42nd Street, Bryant Park. Important transfer point between the FM and the 7. 7th Avenue on the B, D, and E. 110th Street on the 6th. Briarwood in Queens. Parsons Boulevard on the F. And Clifton on Staten Island. This is really bad news. In addition, the station renewals that were going to take place at 7th Avenue on the F and G, East 149th on the 6th, end of the line 179th on the F, Briarwood on the E and F, 3rd Avenue and 38th on the 6th, Brook Avenue on the 6th, and upgrades to the public announcement system at more than 70 stations, all in suspension now. In addition, the purchase of lots of 250 new electric buses, which would have been a major push for us to be an all-electric bus system, is now on hold. And upgrade of the following bus depots: East New York, Eastchester, Grand Avenue, Gun Hill, Jackie Gleason, Jamaica, Kingsbridge, Mother Clara Hale, Queens Village, Ulmer Park, and Yukon Depot. Upgrades to all of those are now on hold. Yes, Sharon.
What is the time frame of,
It depends on when all the lawsuits are adjudicated and we are allowed to progress. I asked, I know there are all the contractors that the MTA does business with have been notified that all of their upcoming things are suspended. They are understanding about it and they will work with us to see this thing through. I asked at what point, if this thing is approved in the middle of the year or hopefully in April, so that the June date could begin, when you could start again putting the contracts out to do this kind of work. And I didn't get an absolutely clear answer, but it may not happen this year.
Andrew, these are contracts that are out already?
They were, some of them are out already,
Right.
but the work hadn't begun yet.
And
So would
some
they
are
have
new,
to renegotiate?
Some are
the
new.
contract?
some are new, they halted new solicitations except for
Right.
specific emergency work.
Hmm.
And some of this is anticipated and some of this was work that wasn't yet funded. So they also, Jana talked about you can talk about the dates of the potential responses or results of the lawsuits.
Dano said publicly yesterday that he believes that he has gotten notification that at least the two major lawsuits, the judges have given indication that they would make a decision in before this program is due to go into effect, which is June. So we will know something then. Jano also announced that all of the license plate readers and all of those,
The infrastructure.
all of the infrastructure and some additional ones, it's like maybe 2% is not finished yet, but will be done pretty soon.
I think.
Very quickly.
Oh,
Did
Stuart.
he also say that if the timeline is significantly delayed, what the impact would be to us cost wise?
I asked that very question. I said, nothing gets cheaper the longer you wait.
Right.
And Jamie Torres Springer of C&D and everybody and Jano, of course, said these things are likely to cost more the longer we wait.
Right.
And that is a very bad sign, obviously. But the worst sign to me is that not only is all of these things, and by the way, Second Avenue Subway Phase 2 will be now delayed.
By the way, Jamie is our speaker at PCAC next week.
Yes, that's going to be
So
great.
we can get additional answers.
But perhaps the most frightening thing about all of this is state of good repair is also in jeopardy. And we certainly don't want to go backwards to the bad old days. We have an amazing system. Other cities can only dream about it, but if you don't take care of it, everything goes to pot. We have major on-time service now, really high. The subways are higher than they've been since my memory, really in the 90s. And the railroads are getting better and we're providing more service. By the way, new cars, new subway cars and new M9s and 9As for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North are also delayed. Also, I don't know how many of you are aware of this. I was aware of this and I spoke to President Rinaldi yesterday. There is a section of the Hudson line. It's south of Croton Harmon, so it is in the electrified zone. But there's a place where only 3 of the 4 tracks are electrified between a few stations. So trains that are coming southbound on track 1 have to loop into track 2 to continue getting electric power. And then they can go back to track 1 when they reach the rest of the district. I see you, Mr. X. Let me just please. And so that is also delayed and that would have improved scheduling and service on the Hudson line because if trains didn't have to loop around to keep their electrification, that would be a great thing. But the state of good repair is what really is frightening. And we really have to keep the system up. I understand maybe we don't expand until we get this, but keeping it in state of good repair is of the utmost urgency.
What's that got to do with congestion pricing revenues?
It's capital dollars and capital
All of
money.
This is capital.
Yes, this is capital.
Capital dollars.
All
We're
capital.
talking about maintenance. It's a state of repair.
Yeah,
Oh, no, state of good repair is
uses
like the
capital.
literal nuts and bolts that that hold the system together and do track replacements as well, in addition to CBTs. So it's a $15 billion hole in the budget that gets blown or put on hold with no plan B.
Exactly. And that issue of no plan B was mentioned during yesterday's press conference after the board meeting. That question was actually asked in those very words, is there a plan B if we don't get congestion pricing? And there is no plan B as of this moment. Yes, Sharon.
Just in a word, what are the 2 lawsuits, the 2 major?
One is from the governor of New Jersey, which was joined by Congressman Gottheimer from Bergen County. And
3 in New York
Yeah,
that were put together.
yeah, there's one from Staten Island and the United Federation of Teachers, and there's a group of Lower East Side residents. And yesterday, a business group announced that they were also in opposition to congestion pricing, even though the New York Partnership, Kathy Wild, is a big supporter of it.
A small business? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had some questions on Marisol has her hand
Yeah.
raised, just for anybody, I'm not sure who the Samsung individual is, but we take questions from members first.
Members first,
And then
yes.
we'll do this in order. So we have Marisol, and then we had Chris, and then Maddie had his hand up, and Samsung before Ms. Trax, and then we'll go in that order. Marisol?
The Samsung is David Kupferberg. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, David. So Marisol?
Should we call
Hi.
you Samsung Kupferberg?
Hi. Hi, everyone. It's good to see everybody. I'm sorry I'm not there. I'm just wondering why these projects that were already in place did not have a funding source to begin with. It seems like it was relying on monies that were not yet received. So I'm a little confused as to why.
They were part of the MTA's capital program, which is like 50 some odd $billion. Congestion pricing was going to pay for,
15.
15. Yeah, I mean, it was a major part of it. And so they just feel they can't go forward until they have the absolute assurance that this money will be available.
So were these projects like on a wish list? Because, I mean,
They're going to maintain the priority status that they had prior to this suspension. And as soon as we get adjudication, hopefully they will once again proceed, albeit with some delay.
but it'll still be based on monies that they expect from congestion pricing.
Yeah,
So-
we're either getting that approved or we're not getting that approved.
So if it's not approved, I'm sorry, it's just, I'm a little confused. So if it's not approved, those projects are not gonna move forward at all?
So congestion pricing was approved, right? It was passed into
State
law by 2019. But it was supposed to move forward and actually was supposed to move forward a couple of years ago, but it was held up. So the $15 billion once bonded was anticipated for these years of the capital program, right? Because we knew it was going to take a few years to get everything through the environmental process and the reviews and to be put into place. So it was for the out years of the capital program. So now we're there. And so these are the projects that are in the chunk of time that were planned for now. So they may have to be bumped to the next year, but what gets bumped from the next plan, or because there's no way to make up that money.
Right, it has ramifications.
Yeah, so there would have to be a serious reconfiguration of new projects that, 85% of the capital program is the repair fund. And that has consistently been, and we know what happens when it's not. So those funds need to continue to be channeled in that direction. And then there's, I guess, we'll find out more from Jamie when he speaks to us next week. Some serious decisions made about what is triaged out. But at this point, they have said that in good faith, they can't move forward with soliciting new contracts for the projects that they anticipated without knowing where the funding is going to come from.
Which makes sense. That I totally understand that. It just seems, and I appreciate the fact that congestion pricing was coming, but not to have, as you say, a plan B. It's which we know what plan B is, right? It's usually
Do nothing.
cuts or prices, fare hikes. So
But that's for the operating budget.
And that's
This is the
operating
capital,
budget.
which is a very different ball. So then it's, that was, paid for in a lot of different ways. There are a lot of different proposals to do that in 2019, but this is the one that, if you even remember back to the funding thermometer that we had developed, and it's still on the website. It was the one that raised the most amount of money with $1 billion that would bring it to $15 billion.
Thank you.
Okay, we have other questions.
So next, Maddie was next, and then David and, oh, I'm sorry, Chris is next.
Hi,
Yeah, Chris.
hi. So, okay, I know the feeling, Lisa. Alright, one thing that I just want to be clear, because Q mentioned also during the committee meetings, which was supposed to be subways and buses, which was now in capital. It's really right now that we need to, and I have full support with the AC and TRC right now, as well as the rest of them. That we definitely need to get everyone on the board, because accessibility is going to disrupt a lot of seniors, people with disability, and yes, the disability veterans as well. Because right now it is trying to get everyone, doesn't matter, we don't like it or not, but the priority is to get all these elevators in every station by 2055. We gotta advocate for this. Q has mentioned this at a special meeting 2 days ago on Tuesday at 9 a.m. He mentioned it at the subcommittee, which everyone can get that link on the Capitol with Jamie's presentation on it, which I think was really well done and very explaining, because it's telling everyone how serious this is. And I agree with Marisol. It does confuse a little bit, but at the same time, Capitol, we need to work with Capitol strongly than we ever did. Thank you.
Thank you.
David is next. Right, actually Maddie, then David, and then Mr. X. And then
Okay,
Jason.
Maddie, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
was that? Okay.
Can I begin?
Please.
All right, thank you very much, Andy. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I do have several topics to talk about, but I'm going to be brief because I know accessibility is a top priority of what Chris mentioned, though, to have, 95% by the year 2055, because I know he expressed strong support for the problem, but there are delays, though. And I do understand, for the fact being, that, I think the judge. Okay, can I resume?
Please.
Yes.
Because I know the judge seeing this, I think, is Brian Martinati, and I know Senator Hoylman Siegel Judge Martinati to recuse himself, because I know his wife was a former commissioner for the Port Authority.
He was removed. Yeah, there's a different judge.
Because I know his wife was a Port Authority commissioner. But anyway, accessibility, I do agree. I'm going to speak about it tonight. I'm going to do recognize later, because every commissioner for the hearing voted yes, except for Commissioner Mack, who was a no vote. He's my commissioner in Nassau County, so he might change his mind at the final vote. So we'll have to see.
Don't count on it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right.
And I'll say my question at the very end, because I do want to recognize a friend of mine, a member.
Thank you, Matt. All right. Scott.
What's the projected increase on express buses when it goes into effect? And what's the plan for the increases? Because right now the SIM 1 and SIM 2, between 7 and 8 o'clock, by the time it gets to the end of Staten Island, are standing room only. So now congestion pricing goes into effect on a Monday. And all of a sudden, what are they projecting ridership to increase? And what's the plan for that immediate increase?
You mean the increases in service? Yeah.
Yeah, for the subways and the railroads, they have said they have increased service already. And I've gone through that at other meetings, and they have definitely increased service on.
Yeah, but the SIM 1 is.
But on the express buses, they have not spoken about increases as of yet.
Not in any bar.
So that's
Not in any bar.
been something we've looked at that. And there are times of day when there's plenty of capacity, as you know, but there are definitely times of day.
I got about 7 o'clock this morning. By the time I got to the end of Staten Island, there were 5 people standing.
But there are plenty of times of day when there's not excess capacity, and that's something.
Exactly.
And that's something that John Samuelson brought up
What are they filling in?
a lot. So it's something that we're going to continue to watch, and we're going to ask you to continue to let us know.
Was it certain
Jessica rides the express bus, and she not only has canceled buses on a regular basis, and that leads to overcrowding.
Because
But
right
also
now is
there's-
they're above capacity right now.
Yep. Right. And so there are actually a few elected officials in Albany who who were looking at making major increases in service on express buses.
Do they have the equipment? Do they have the drivers?
Well, then there's that. So
That's the
we're
drive.
gonna, we will continue to pursue that.
They do have
That
a-
is a big issue.
They do
It is.
have
Yeah.
a request for drivers, they're hiring.
I know they're hiring drivers, yeah.
Buses, yeah, but that's, I think that they don't have enough drivers now to fill the buses that they've got. So it takes some time for them to do the driver training.
Yeah.
And they even if they condense that, we
Are we
still,
gonna strand people in bus stops at the end of the line?
no, really don't want to do that.
That would not be a good look.
No, and if they don't increase service, that's gonna happen.
Yeah. So we will pursue that.
And also, they're projecting small business to lose 5% of their receipts just for pricing, and their costs are gonna go up. Are we hurting small businesses?
Small businesses are currently being hurt by congestion. Deliveries, I mean, it's just unreal. Which is
But now-
why deliveries may get moved to a different time of day, and which will speed deliveries and cut costs.
What time of day you move deliveries to?
Between after 9 p.m.
Yeah,
there's a
after 9 p.m.
So if my deli closes at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I have to hire somebody to wait for a truck to come in?
When does it open?
It's like 6 AM. I mean,
But they're not in the construction zone. They're deli. Are you speaking?
but if there's a business that's
Yeah.
open just for business hours, I mean, they need a delivery.
Yeah.
Only delivery at 8 o'clock at night. I'm hiring somebody for 8 o'clock at night and spend more money to get my delivery, and I'm passing cost along.
No, so that's something that's why there was, this group of small businesses that joined in the lawsuit yesterday, asking that there be a look at the economic impacts.
It's great the MPs make money.
No, my understanding is that the economic impacts were part of an assessment that is in the document, but I have to look back at that. What is the case though, is that there's one fee, if you go into the zone, you would have to figure out how to make as many of your deliveries as possible within there.
And I'm still charging you more to make my delivery.
And it's gonna get passed on to the consumer. I don't care what anyone says.
It is.
It's always-
No doubt.
It is.
In London, all small businesses lost 5% of their receipts.
Oh.
So they operate on a razor thin margin of this. You take 5% away and increase, you're gonna lose more small businesses.
I think that's gonna come out in a lawsuit.
That's part of it.
Oh, that's good. It is part of one of several lawsuits, yeah.
I'd like to get on the list to speak at some.
But you would be next.
You would be
No,
next.
there's people ahead of me, right?
Members go first.
Members to go first.
Oh, okay. I want to kind of echo what Scott said because I think about areas that are already not well served by transit. You have to take the bus or you have to take the railroad, whatever. And during the daytime between morning rush hour and evening rush hour is like a dead zone. You get like the railroad once an hour, the buses run less frequently. And that's part of the reason why people do drive in when they live in certain places because they already know. So back to how is that going to affect our services in our areas if suddenly people no longer have that option to drive in? And I don't really speak much on congestion pricing because I have mixed feelings about it. The planner side of me, a person that lives in a place with a lack of transit options, but I also listening to people around me, who take the train, just friends, neighbors, and it's almost as though it's a tax to go into Manhattan, right? That's how people perceive it. So it's also very Manhattan centric. And also, these are people who have been not well served by transit time and time again. And it's almost as though transit is saying, trust me, you do this and you're gonna have better service. And people feel like they need to see that service now or something more than just a trust me. because there's no guarantee. They felt like they'd been let down. But I'm just kind of passing this along because I've spoken to people, I've talked to people about the various sides of this congestion pricing. And it's going to affect regular riders and most of the people who may not even be able to afford. The people who can afford it, will want to drive. It won't change behavior. It's the other people that it's kind of.
Those are definitely something.
The wealthy don't care and the poor don't drive.
They do,
It's the middle class.
but the poor people do.
So if that's, those are something that we've heard, and, you know, the bus redesigns are coming. I know I'm looking forward to that in my neighborhood. I honestly can't wait. And looking forward to the next round of next steps. The railroads talk about, the Long Railroad in particular talks about 80% service. Right, between.
And Staten Island has 2 tracks. Can't increase on it.
I know, there's, and if, but then you get into this whole, let me just finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
for a second. One of the, you know, we made 3 proposals for discounted fares on the railroads that would help people to reduce their cost of commuting with fair fares on the commuter rails, with fair fares on commuter rails, city ticket weekly,
Right.
and with enabling seniors, disabled, and Medicare eligible riders in the morning peak to use those discounts. And that's something that we're really out there pursuing very vigorously, because that would increase affordability. So people aren't forced to at least to wait for a train. If they, you know, need to go in the morning, I have to say, no, I need to make my appointment after 10. So that's one of the things we're looking at. But you know, I think that the MTA has said and pledged, and they are responsible for. It's a must, not a wanna. Reviewing what happens as the congestion plan goes into effect, publishing that on open data, and you know that a lot of eyes are going to be on that. So I personally think that my husband drives a lot into the city. He's started to take the train now to get himself into the habit of doing that. And he's said, you know, it only costs $5 to take the train to Bayside. I said, well, yes, I do. But, you know, yeah. But there are, I think changing behavior is one aspect, but the riders aren't the only ones who need to change behavior. It also needs to be a change in service.
Yeah, because I just, for example, today to get here, I had to take a 10:51, drop my mother off, come take the train. The next train's 11:51. So someone else.
From which station, Karen?
That would be Rosedale, Lawton. Well, that's Lawton, but that line, Locust Manor. So I have better service on the weekend than I do during the day, Monday through Friday.
And don't forget, they're gonna be doing construction over there, so be
They
aware.
already have a row of parking gone and they have the trailers and everything set
No,
up.
track work.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna start March 4th.
Okay.
The funding from congestion pricing and the capital improvements is going to improve the lot of the ridership by far. And, you know, I don't even want to think about how we do all the things that I've mentioned, if we don't get this money. It's going to improve the system. I think it will eventually improve frequencies too. And we're looking at new fare types. When Omni comes to the railroads, you know, we'd like to see the return of the week city ticket, obviously.
I see it before then.
Yeah, we'd love to see it before then, but right now they're using, you know, conversion to Omni, and I know, and I have nowhere near done with my tax report.
You see one today.
Okay, I guess we have to suspend my chair report, of which I have a lot more, and because we've run into time when our speaker is here, so.
But yes, you're up after we have our
Thank you.
presentations now, and then we'll
So
go back.
let's go to
And David, we'll come back to you and to Mr. X after the presentation. I'm writing it down.
Oh, and I have something to,
But we have our presentation.
no, I know, that's right. And
is,
it involves why I'm so late also.
Okay.
okay. Let's go on to, are both Mark and Patrick with us?
Patrick's here.
Patrick's here, Mark's online, okay. This is about the customer count survey and
Yes, some of you may have seen it, the January committee meeting.
Yeah.
But I think even just things that I'm hearing in the last half hour are gonna be very interesting for everybody in this room. So I'm Patrick Chalice, Mark's on the phone. We work on the market research team here, and this is a biannual study that we do twice a year. And the feedback is shared at the committee meeting, and then we act on it internally and get it in the hands of people that can make changes and take customer feedback into account. So I'll let Mark start because Subway's the first handful of slides.
Thank you, everyone. My apologies for not joining. I'm just still recovering from COVID.
very.
Let me know if I'm coming in loud and clear.
Yeah.
I'm Mark,
Yeah, we can't hear super well.
Any better?
little bit.
A little bit.
Try it again. Barely.
Okay, I'll try to speak a little louder here.
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. So the first slide is kind of going over what we acknowledge as the major KPIs for the subway. So the way this survey is structured, for those who've not taken one, it asks a respondent to select their specific lines they use. So that will be the green bars on the line chart. So that customer is rating specifically the line they're taking, whether it be the R, F, 1, 2, and they're allowed to choose 2 lines, and they're rating them separately about specific things about their line, one being their overall satisfaction with the line. The blue line is them rating their satisfaction with the stations they use. We ask a respondent to pick the station they board and then one that they exit, and we combine it to get like overall attribute scores for those stations, and that is what the blue line here represents. Whereas the yellow and red bars are just at an overall level. We ask customers, how safe do you feel on trains and how safe do you feel in stations? And since the methodology change and the survey went online, all of these KPI metrics have been trending upwards, where our overall line and stations, more than half of customers are satisfied. Stations is almost approaching 70%. And safety, which was very low in the pandemic era of spring 2022, with only about a third of customers feeling safe. Now it's about half of customers who feel safe in the system. Next slide. Who's controlling it? So this, though, kind of goes a little opposite of what our first question asked. So the first question, when a customer goes into the survey, we just ask them how satisfied they are with the subway. There's nothing much else prompting them, just in general, how satisfied are you with the subway? As long as they have used it in the last 6 months, they will see this question. And 52% of customers report that they're satisfied, giving us a score of 6 to 10. After increasing every wave, this has dropped 4 points. Generally, when data points that are at a very macro and micro level go different ways, that means the macro, kind of the brand image of the subway, is negative, whether it's be influenced by PR, news, or social media, or anything that can change a customer's perception that they're seeing. Whereas when you ask someone about maybe their specific trip, those are going well, and hence why they're giving us good scores about their individual lines, but not so much at an overall level, maybe when you stop someone on the street or have them answer this survey question. The next one. Next slide. Yeah, and what we found is the customers that we're seeing give us that are at the overall level less satisfied are those who are using the system more frequently. So this is something we've seen trending over the survey, the last couple of waves. Generally, if you use the subway more often, you're more likely to either occur delay, maybe something you didn't want to see, maybe some quality of life issues within the system. So we're seeing that those customers are generally less likely to be satisfied. But what we noticed this time around is those customers who use the subway even more frequently, they're the ones who are becoming less satisfied than they were before. So they're noticing something either a little different or just associating our brand image with other items that might have not been influenced in other ways. Maybe they saw a news story, or they're just not thinking specifically about their most recent ride. And here you can kind of see that when we get to those who ride the most frequently, 46% were satisfied, and that group, at least in the survey pool, make up 47% of the survey pool. So they're nearly half of those responding, which is not completely tied to what we see in the ridership data, but is kind of what we're getting as a representative pool here. Just so I'll let you know, the subway survey is weighted by the lines customers use. So it's representative at the line level. So we have a full representation of customers who use the 7 versus the B versus the Q. To the next slide. And then one thing we wanted to ask, so we did want to kind of understand, is if things could improve, how would that overall number increase? So here we have the horizontal black bars represent the overall level of all respondents, and then the colors are broken down by the days of the week a customer, how many days a week a customer says they use the subway. At the top level, customers overall want to see improvements in reduction of quality of life concerns, fewer people behaving erratically in the system. If those improve within the subway system, almost 50% of customers were saying that they will be more satisfied with the subway overall. Then when we look at it kind of at the frequency level, we see service become a lot more important to customers, with more reliable service being at 40% for those who use the subway 5 to 7 days a week. Then if we kind of go over to the right, it's there from the right, wait times, more frequent service on weekdays is also a lot higher for that group. So we kind of see a little differences for customers based on how they're using the system. I like those, the red bar, which is our most infrequent customers, more visible police and security presence is a lot higher for them. So this is things we notice differently based on some of the customer profiles we look into. Next slide. And here we kind of do a driver analysis. So now looking at the attributes at the individual station and the individual line level, and we rank them here based on how much they relate to that overall satisfaction number. The top two are kind of value for money, which is not really about how much a customer is paying. It's more of an all-encompassing attribute, though customers do attribute to money in that sense. And then the second one being safety from crime on board trains, being very important, though 52% of customers are satisfied, and that with customers responding about their specific train line, of how safe they feel about that train line, not about the system overall. And then it goes to, we can see a lot of our service attributes getting into that second level with service reliability, frequency of delays, waiting times, and crowding on board. The one I want to point out here as well is cleanliness on board trains is up 9, which was the highest uptick of all of our attributes, and with 57% of customers saying they're satisfied with cleanliness on board trains. Next slide. So here, with those kind of individual scores, we kind of can look at individual lines. So here we're showing the safety scores, with being that safety is still very important to the customers. So to the left, you see the kind of the train lines that are below the overall line average of 52%. The J has been pretty much at the bottom or the last couple waves, and is one of our lower performing in customer satisfaction on safety. And then on the right, we're looking at some of the lower scoring stations. This data was shared with others in the subways team, as well as other partners within that kind of help these scores improve, being the NYPD, as well as anything related to kind of homeless outreach, being that we do know there is a relationship between customers feeling unsafe and some of the quality of life issues that are in the subway, especially in the winter. This survey was in the field back in November, so that does play a role in some of the customer perceptions as well. But so we're able to kind of drill down to at the little more granular level on some of these attributes. Next slide. So, and then here we kind of see our overall line. So this is where customers are rating how satisfied they are with these overall lines. So that first slide, that green line that was going for overall line, this is how it's broken out by each individual line. We are seeing improvements at a lot of different lines. The 1 line made one of the bigger improvements, and it's now one of the top ranking lines on this metric for customers. And then we have the G, L, and 7, which have been up in the last couple of waves along with the Q train. To the next one, we should be going. This one should be stations. Yeah, and this is the same kind of item for stations. We group them within the GSM zones. This is what the station teams works with, so they kind of understand what groups of stations are within these different zones. And for this, we're seeing an increase across all zones, and a lot of it is attributed to the improvement in station cleanliness, as well as customers feeling safer in station. Those are generally the two station level attributes that have a stronger relationship with the overall station score. And just within some of the zones, highlighting some of the stations that saw some of the biggest improvements within those zones that have large improvements. So we have 125th on the A, B, C, D line, up 13, Penn Station on the A, C, and E side, and Wall Street 4, 5, all up double-digit percentage points. Next slide. So this is about getting the station agents out of the booth. The way the questions were phrased were, first, we found out if a customer interacted with a station agent. So 26% of the respondents said they have interacted with a station agent. Then we asked them kind of where did the interaction happen? Was it in the booth, near a MetroCard, on a platform? And then based on that interaction, how satisfied were they with this interaction? And we found that the majority of customers were satisfied with agent interactions. Furthermore, we're seeing kind of some differences based on where those interactions happen, with customers being more likely to be satisfied with interactions either near MetroCards or on the platform versus in the booth. If we're just thinking about why a customer might interact with a station agent, it's either sometimes issues with their MetroCards, changing money from one card to the other, the turnstile is not letting them in, or they need directions or issues with service changes. So some of those customers might be coming at it with some animosity or some anger if there's some issues, but we're seeing that they're leaving most likely to be satisfied, especially when the agents are kind of meeting them maybe where they are versus having to go to the booth to meet the agent. And I think that should be it on the subway side. So I'll pass it over to Patrick, who's in the room.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. You can go to the next one. I'm going to go through local express bus, and then we have a couple of slides on Access-a-Ride. So this was the overall satisfaction question, simply how satisfied are you with buses? So it's really before they get into anything else, asking about buses. So you can see in the last year and a half, we were kind of hovering local and express in the same area, mid-60s for local, mid-70s, almost 80 for express, and then pretty big dip in November when the survey was out for both local and express. So it's surprising to see it, but I think the data shows us potentially reasons why and what could be done. So we wanted to look at how frequently our survey customers who answered the survey say that they use the bus. And just like Mark showed with Subway, the more frequently you ride, the less satisfied that you are. And if you look at the 5-day a week and the 6 to 7 day a week, those two together make up nearly half of our entire sample audience, and significant, almost double-digit decreases in satisfaction for those two groups. If you look on the left, the more infrequent, I mean, nearly 70% satisfied, and the 2-day per week or less traveler is still a third of our sample, but bus riders sometimes mentioned before, if you don't really live in a place where you don't have many options, you kind of rely on it, and they take it very frequently. So what is important to customers and how are we doing on them? So this shows bus attributes in order of importance. The top 3 really stood out, so they're separated up there. But if you look at of the top 7 attributes, 6 of them are service related, the purple icon. And really, like, the story kind of is those top 3: service reliability, waiting times, and delays all decreased from the spring, and 50% or less customer satisfaction on those. If you look at that second grouping, the scores are a little bit higher. So travel time, 64%. Driver helpfulness is high. They're just not as important to customers. So really, to move that overall number from 57 back up into the 60s, like, clearly the focus is on those top three. So it's interesting. So Subway, Mark showed a similar thing here. So the 57% local bus satisfaction was in general, how satisfied are you with buses? But when we then asked the customer to select up to 2 bus routes that they want to rate, they're actually rating their individual bus route higher than buses overall. So on the left-hand side is local bus. They're rating their bus route on average 65%, which is still down from spring, but not as much down as the overall number was. And the sample size we get for bus responses is over 25,000 responses. So it really then allows us to drill into specific areas in the system or boroughs where there could be issues. And here on the left, you can see for local bus, it's clear. Brooklyn, Queens, down 6 and 5 percentage points. Staten Island's down 10, but I'll note it's the smallest piece of our sample, which probably isn't a surprise. It's, I think, maybe 2 or 3% of all bus ridership is in Staten Island. So it's less than 1,000 people, but still a significant drop. So mentioned how big our sample size is. It's like, what's happening in Brooklyn and Queens routes? Like, how far down can we go? And that's part of what we've been doing since we put this together, is working with, on the bus side, depot managers, and we can take all of Brooklyn and break it out by depots. And for most depots have enough responses to then even go down to the route level, see which routes are bringing the total scores down, or which routes are exceeding it. It's like, what's going on here? Where can we connect dots and focus efforts to hopefully raise the scores? So this Subway had a similar one. We simply asked what needs to improve to increase your customer satisfaction. And this view looks at it at the borough level. And the black bar is the total average. So any bar that's going well above it or below it, something to keep an eye on. So what's really interesting here is we just saw Queens and Brooklyn routes had some of the biggest decreases. So Brooklyn's the gold bar and Queens is the green bar, and you can see they're over the total in wait times and more reliable service. So for those customers, that's absolutely a starting point. And what's also interesting is for Bronx routes in red, it's not so much service related for them. If you could see, crowding and people not paying actually are the two that exceed that total. And I remember when John Coffin presented this, Frank was in the room, and it's something, it's a difference for Bronx customers, and it clearly stands out here. We don't get too much into fare evasion on buses in this specific survey. That people not paying is really kind of the closest we get to it, but you can see Bronx, Staten Island really jump out. And, for those customers in the Bronx, that's the 3rd highest thing. So we allowed them to pick up to 3, and that was higher than even more reliable service, people not paying. I think it's a couple on paratransit. So Access-a-Ride, Subway bus were the best 6-month period, but Access-a-Ride had a really good, strong spring to fall increase of nearly 70% satisfaction in the fall, up 4 from the spring. And if you go back to a year and a half, it's actually up 7 percentage points. So it's a similar breakdown of our customers, AR customers who answered the survey, how frequently they travel on the left, and where they live based on the zip code they gave us if they provided one. Access-a-Ride customers are a little bit different in that they're not traveling as frequently as bus and subway customers. So that 1 to 2 days and less makes up more than half of our sample. And that's the most satisfied group. So it's still that same trend of if you travel more, you're a little bit less satisfied. But the 5-day-a-week Access-a-Ride customer makes up 22% of our sample, but still a good score, 63%, and very consistent across also the borough that they live in, satisfaction. I think for Access-a-Ride, when we ask what's important to customers, on-time pickup is far and away the most important thing. And then it's travel times and frequency of no-shows. And the 4th one is about booking and scheduling and being able to get a ride when you want it. And 3 of those 4 increase significantly from the spring. So the 4-point overall increase is pretty much tied to these increases, especially in on-time pickup. The 8-point increase is really impressive because that's clearly the most important thing to customers. I think this is the last slide. So we know with Accessoride, you can get the primary blue and white van, or you can get a for-hire vehicle, and you don't necessarily know what you're gonna get unless you have a special request for a blue and white van. But we just a little side by side on the difference between the two. So on the left is overall AAR satisfaction, a little bit higher for the primary carriers. On-time pickup, which is the most important attribute, higher for primary, and then travel times is sort of on par. I think it's the last one, but yeah, so this is like just a high level. Mark and myself and the rest of our team then take this to all the different agencies and get as deep as we possibly can to understand what's, what customers are saying.
Thank you so much for this.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask one quick one and then you're next. So in the first slide, which was the subway interview, I guess, or rating, it asked people the line they use. What about people that go to their job or wherever they have to go using 2 or 3 different lines? Do you ask them to specify all of the lines they use or just the first one they use?
No, so the survey wording basically tells them you can choose up to 2 and we'll only have you rate 2. We do know customers can take more lines. It would just make the survey unbearable and we'd probably have no one to actually take it. So we do prompt them and let them know, please select the 2 lines you use the most frequently, as those will be the ones you will give ratings on.
All right, thanks. Stuart.
So was the survey designed that you'd be able to flesh out any differences between time of day?
Yeah.
So like with the bus data.
Yep.
Is there anything you could share about that?
Yeah, we don't have a slide in here, but we do see that. It's AM peak, PM peak, or lowest satisfied, which I think makes sense.
The PM peak.
AM and PM peak.
With the lowest satisfied.
Midday is higher. Weekends actually were high too. And we drill into, like, we have slides where we look at people who are very dissatisfied and somewhat dissatisfied, and then compare that to when they're traveling. It's the late night part really jumps out. So it's trying to like persona and profile who the customer is. And if you're very dissatisfied, you're more likely to be in the AM peak and actually the late night category. So it's, we don't know much more than that about the customer, but can imagine they're relying on buses at off hours, on the weekends.
Okay, so it did say weekdays and weekend.
Yeah, we had weekend separation.
Right, okay.
I would encourage anybody who ever gets these surveys to take them, because it's really important that everybody's voice.
How do you get them?
You should just, if you have ever sent an email, I get them for every line.
Yeah,
They are long.
Some of them. Thank you. Yeah.
that's the consensus. It's funny, we're in the process of.
Karen, I'm sorry, guys. She knows I'm glitching.
It's a common feedback that we get, and we're making significant changes to the upcoming spring studies. So I think everyone will notice the difference if you take it.
Always happy to be your focus group.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll ask you to just test it once we have it ready.
Yeah. Happy to do that.
Since you mentioned Accessoride, and since, I've seen Accessoride with their technology, because I as an app member, I do, when I see an Accessoride, and just let everyone know, it's broker service and on demand. Also, just to back it up. What I'm seeing with a lot of people, we're trying to do the survey, and I agree with Karen, it is long and dragging. And this is what they said. What I'm seeing in Accessoride and the MTA buses, it is on-time performance is still an issue because they're getting stuck in traffic. And school buses, yes, sometimes sanitation, or people don't know how to park and they don't understand to get out of the bus stops. One thing what also I'm seeing is, and I think this is more an education that comes in, I think given PCAC and PCAC can also, we need to, and I'm blanking so someone can back me up because today's blanking day, I don't know why. Thank you. It's what we're seeing with Accessoride is when they do want to set up, not just go on the phone, but the app, there is a lack of a lot of outreaching that we need to encourage that. And I know some people have been mentioning that to me. And I said to them, well, it's been in the MTA Accessibility newsletters, but regarding Accessoride, we're seeing a lot of people seeing some vehicles, and you did mention it, cleanliness.
It is sometimes it's not easy because the accessory can come out and service clean, but it sometimes it gets dirty because someone else could be on it before. And safety for seatbelts was mentioned in the survey, I know. So I hope we can work on seatbelts. That could be checked.
Yeah, we just met with Chris on Monday, actually.
I saw you guys.
Yeah,
I was there.
yeah, and walked him through a full accessorized report and found a lot of what you're saying. The app thing is interesting. We've asked that question recently. If you're aware of the app, you're not booking all your trips on it, why not? And it's actually not as much as not understanding it or needing that education, even though that would help. It's more, they simply say, I prefer speaking to a live person.
If they can get through.
Yeah, which then Chris said that live person they're talking to is actually doing the same thing, using the same software that they could use if they wanted to do it. But it's, I think, this perception of, if I'm speaking with someone on the phone, they can work with me and get it for me. Maybe connecting it that it's actually the same exact, they're looking at the same thing you'd look at if you were, it was interesting. It's.
Age, maybe older people don't want to use the app, they'd rather talk to a person.
That's.
Also disability, let's.
Okay.
You can also.
We have a lot.
No, go ahead.
Marisol also has her.
Marisol,
See someone 7 years old, going on an app trying to figure out.
Hi, how are you? So I'm kind of interested in finding out if there were any follow-up questions as it comes to, as you mentioned with the Bronx, you're saying that reliability is not one of their top 3, but I'm wondering if that had anything to do with the bus redesign or they just might be focusing on things that they think they can change. For instance, the fare evasion, I was on a call with a recent precinct council, and the fare evasion has become a big deal because it's the way that people are coming in and creating these overcrowding conditions that you guys are not accounting for. So there was a request for Eagle teams on the regular local buses. So I'm wondering, with this information, is there any way to affect that change in that? Are you going to be able to, and I know this is all funding, are you going to be able to put enforcement on these local buses? You don't need it so much on the express, but on the local buses to try to make the commuters feel a little bit better about the service that they are getting on these lines. I hope I didn't make it too confusing.
No, I think that's clear. I think you're right. And one interesting thing, we know safety isn't as big of an issue for bus customers as it is on the subway, but we ask how satisfied are you with safety on board the bus? And if you're dissatisfied, this round we had a follow-up asking, why are you dissatisfied? So we had people behaving erratically or people not paying or crowding. And actually for everybody, it wasn't so much about feeling unsafe because of another customer, it was about crowding. That was the top reason that they felt unsafe. And that was no different in the Bronx. I think what we're seeing is it is about people not paying and crowding more so for Bronx customers than it is about actual service.
and while I was at the board meeting yesterday, I asked a question, or was it one of the committee meetings, about how do they rate ridership on buses? Because so many people are not paying. Is it by electric eyes, or is it by weight, or is it, you can't go by the turnstile, obviously, or the fare box anymore. And they said there's actually an electric eye that
The APCs.
yes, that records
So
who's riding.
So just as a follow-up, we just recently had an incident on a local bus, where a woman was slashed.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So I'm kind of, I know you said you did these in the fall. I'm kind of curious to see what the new numbers might be in your next survey, because a lot of incidents are occurring, not just, I mean, we talked about the subways before, but obviously the subway issues, and the Bronx has, for some reason, had a few of them in just the last couple of weeks. So that's a big concern for us. But I'm wondering, they've put a lot of officers on the subways. And I understand that the buses are more on the NYPD patrol services, but I'm wondering if there's anything that can be done to kind of counteract a lot of the fare evasion and the incidents that are occurring on the buses.
At the meeting yesterday, at the board meeting, there was a question about the Eagle teams on local buses.
Mhm.
And that was done, it was in response to a recent article about, being able to show fare payment. And there is, that the NYPD are going out, it's the NYPD or the MTA police who are going
Both.
with them. With, on local buses to stop people before they, get on them. But I think that they're ramping that up as opposed to having a, 100% coverage of every bus, because that's
Yeah,
prohibitive.
that's prohibitive, of course.
No, that I understand, but in the case of this young, and I'm glad you mentioned the meeting, because as I mentioned, it came up at one of the precinct councils where people are feeling that the fare evasion is having a very negative impact. And we're asking about the Eagle team. So I would like to see more of that occur on the local buses. And
I think that the precinct councils are also in a good position to ask, to help pinpoint where the Eagle teams might be
Mhm.
best used, but maybe you also have some of that information that can be shared
Yeah,
about those locations where
absolutely.
that's,
Yeah.
that would be great.
yeah, thank you.
We do have a question about, we have two questions. Is the only way to receive the survey through the mail, and how many total participants were in the survey?
We have an option to call in and you can take it over the phone.
Or you see it in a station and you
Yeah.
can scan it?
Yeah, right. You can scan it if you see it. Doesn't have to be through emails.
Okay, and how many total participants?
I think across all the modes, I want to say, Mark, you can correct me, 150,000 total, including railroad.
Okay. With the majority on transit?
Yeah, subway by far the most, buses about 20. How much subway, Mark?
Subway had 60,000 individual respondents. Then when we look at all the lines, meaning that they could rate two, is around 110 responses, 110,000 responses.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take some more. Mr. X.
Okay, so if we have a problem with the service, can we contact you? Per se?
Two places you can contact if you have service problems. There's the customer feedback form, so when we also do monthly surveys. And I'd be happy to add you to our list to take our monthly, it's a much shorter survey, so don't.
They have my contact information.
Yeah.
And my next question is regarding the fare beaters. Okay, you mentioned someone mentioned the Eagle teams. Can the Eagle team members give these, if the Eagle team members see the fare beaters beat the fare, can they just simply give them a wedgie? Maybe let's give them a wedgie or hypodermic needle.
No, I like wedgie better. Wedgie better.
We'll put that in the suggestion box.
Yeah, that's good. Either give them a wedgie or hypodermic needle. Just give them a shot. It'll be like a flu shot.
No, COVID shot.
Maybe they won't do it
Right,
again.
we have, Jason, before we get to you, is a number of riders you mentioned, is that considered a good share of riders that responded? And do you feel that specific lines had more responses, and is there a reason for that?
Yeah, and Mark can chime in, but what we typically find is the responses that we get mirror ridership to a certain extent. On the subway line level and on the bus route level, it's like the M15, for instance, we get a lot of responses for.
Yeah.
But is the Queens route that goes to Roosevelt Island, I forget which one that's called, but we get
102.
We don't get as many for the 102, and the ridership's a lot lower, but we also, part of the weighting scheme for the bus level, we weight by borough level average ridership. So one thing we do is we tend to get more responses for people filling out the survey for Manhattan bus routes. That doesn't really connect to actual ridership in Manhattan compared to the other boroughs. So we use a weight that kind of smooths it out. So Manhattan might come down, Queens might go up, since local ridership is higher in Queens than what we might be getting in the sample. So the weighting scheme helps to smooth everything out and try to cover everything.
Have you ever investigated whether people that are unhappy are more likely to fill out a survey than people that are happy?
So I mentioned the monthly survey that we send out. We worked with the social media team and may have seen on LinkedIn or Instagram in the beginning of February, and they sent our survey link out for the first time on social media. And the people that came in through that channel were not happy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking the time to fill the survey out, either you're very happy or not very happy.
All right, Trudy.
On Trudy first.
Second emotion.
When you say that you got 60,000 responses, over how long a period of time was that? Because you say you do it every month. And
That 60,000 was for this biannual, so it's done twice a year. And it was in the field for at least 2 weeks. Maybe a few days after.
And of the 60,000, how many are repeats? Where I know some people who, when they get a survey, they'll do it a couple of times. I say, well, I'll have more of an impact if I do that. How do you weed out the repeats?
If you take the survey through your email, you can only take it once because it's connected to your email. And if you see a QR code at the station and you take it on your phone, it's going to remember your phone's IP address and won't let you take it.
And then what will it do? It'll just say.
It'll say you've already completed the survey.
Oh,
And also everyone's sort of commenting on how long the survey is, so I'm not sure how many.
You don't want to take them with.
Well, there, yeah.
But it's a good question.
There are some people who just figure, if I was so angry about something or other, and, okay. On the bus survey. I have my own thing, which I don't think is even covered there, which is about SBS and regular bus stops and not being able to. I want to see. Never mind. It's okay. I'll lean forward. But my own gripe at certain stops, and it's interesting that the M15 guy had the most gripes in the bus stop. In the survey, because, and I would love to know how many of them deal with bus stops and the SBS, separate stops for the SBS and the 15, because it happens to me and I get more people calling me to complain about that. And I say, yeah, I know it happens to me too, and they can't do a damn thing about it. Do you have those kind of, and I think there was one question that I saw about bus stops.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, just one, but do you have it then broken down, like
Not by actual.
the
stop.
problems, not by actual stops?
No, we don't get that. We don't have actual pick the bus stop that you use, no.
Or even the problems with the stop, like the SBS and the.
We have open field comments that people will write in if they have something specific, and we take those into account.
Okay, I would love to see, but I'm not gonna bother you now, because it didn't come clear in, that stops went down to that much of a level. Okay, thank you.
So we had a comment from Marisol, and then Jason has a question. If there's a way that we can help increase the input by providing the survey to all of the members who may not have received it yet, and or elected officials, to spread that further. I don't know if GCR does that. Melissa, you may know if it's sent out to electeds with a request that they send it out.
I can check, Lisa. I believe that we do send an email blast out to all of our elected official lists, letting them know the survey's out and giving them the asset, but I can confirm that for you.
Melissa, have you also done that, and this is Trudy, have you also done it through the community boards?
We have on our email blast list, we have community boards, elected officials, and other stakeholders.
But when you say,
So
when I say community boards, the like at community board meetings, not just the members of but the people who attend the community boards, have the survey distributed at community board meetings through the community boards, because that's.
No, I don't believe that we have specifically done that.
Well, you might want to.
But we could, yeah, so I'll bring that back to the
In
group.
other words, distributing it to all the community board members, but then asking them to
We got it.
Thank you.
distribute to everybody who attends.
Just we, I know Jason has been really working
Yes.
very
That's what I'm trying to
patiently.
get to him. That's
Well, okay, yeah.
Couple of things. One, I've been filling out the surveys because I take more than 2 subway lines on the weekdays and weekends. And the buses, I take several buses in Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Staten Island, especially the S40. And my complaint logs are
For the roof.
We have 3 minutes left
and
for this whole presentation, so when you do.
And I saw on Penn Station a couple of months ago that Amtrak were doing their own survey. That they will give everybody business cards with a QR code to fill out the survey.
Right.
Have you guys considered doing the same thing in specific hubs that people could fill out our surveys?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that S40. When this survey was in the field in November, I took the ferry to Staten Island with a handful of brochures with the QR code on it, just like that. And got off at the Staten Island terminal, right?
St. George?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I walked out because the bus stops are right outside. So I walked
Yeah.
outside, people were waiting, and it was actually really useful. And you get people in the moment giving feedback, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, it is something that we do once the surveys in the field.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Perfect, and your time. Thank you.
See?
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great.
Okay, so we're gonna go,
Back to our
back
regularly
to,
scheduled program.
yes,
Let me finish for a second.
you may have heard about new conductor stanchions that have been installed at 125th and Lexington. You probably also heard that this morning at Rockaway Avenue on the Sea Line, a conductor was savagely attacked when they leaned out their window to check the platform. I'm not sure these stanchions are gonna be of much help in that regard.
They're just adjacent to the windows.
Yes, that's what they are. They don't actually stop somebody from, if somebody's intent on being in there, they can still be in there, unfortunately.
Not even, no, Andrew. Unfortunately, because of my ailment, I spend a lot of time literally flat on my back watching television. And I watch a lot of news programs for different things. But the way that these stanchions have been treated, they're at 125th Street, right?
Right, right.
That's the test.
That's the test.
They are treated both by the broadcasters and by the people they interview as a joke. And they show visuals how, because of the way they're placed, anybody, unless they're very overweight, can get right through them. And they think some people think it's a decoration, but the people that they interviewed, and of course, these are always selective interviews, but I didn't hear one positive. They said, they found another way to spend money. They found, and because of the whole thing with, with the financial problems and having it, one of the reasons, I won't even get into why I'm late today. I mean, no matter how much time I allow, something happens to me. I think they'd say, Mason's coming, let's screw up on this, that, or the other thing so she can complain about it. But I will tell you that the stanchions, I have received almost as many calls, and I know you went into congestion pricing, so I'm not going to go into it, except for one thing, that the emphasis, I've been trying to sell it to everybody. Talking about a faster ride or safety and everything. It seems that all that I won't say the board because I know it's not you, but the management has been stressing in the last couple of weeks. And I've heard this from elected officials who think that they're now being taken by this as a way to get money, is the financial needs and about the capital program being stopped and all the rest. And I hear that along with complaints about extra money being spent like things like these stanchions. So I just wanted to get in my little bit about congestion pricing also, because I don't know who decided to take this new attack about, and you probably discussed it before I got here, and I won't even go into why I was
Yeah,
late.
we did.
But I actually, one of the reasons I was late is that I was trying to get out the door and there was a phone call from somebody and I recognized their phone. Somebody who had been complaining to me about a number of things, which I'll get to later. But all I heard was about this, now you finally are telling the truth. You're finally telling the truth. And then, as I said, you have these things which
Can you wrap up a little bit?
I'm wrapped. No,
Oh, you're
that's-
wrapped. Okay. Thank you for that. So the attack on transit workers has come up at many.
Wait, but you're not going to respond about these things, whose idea it was?
I don't know.
We had, Trudy, we spoke about it for 30 minutes.
No, I'm not talking about congestion pricing. I'm talking about
The
what you
stanchions.
just brought up.
It's an attempt to make the workers feel safer. I don't believe it's going to work. I think we need a new system where the conductors do not have to stick their heads out of the window in order to check the platforms. I think mirrors or cameras or something can be installed so the employees are not put at risk.
Just put a steel mesh cage at the conductor's position.
I like that.
It's just a pilot, Trudy.
That's it.
It's
I
pilot.
know, but
Let me, please let me go on. We have a lot to,
Okay.
please,
Hold that thought.
How much is it, did they cost this?
not much.
How much?
I don't know, but I can find
Could you
it.
find out,
Yes,
please?
absolutely. So in another attempt, and this I think is a really good attempt, they are going to be enclosing bus operators in attack-proof cubicles but in order to do this, they need approval from the state, which they have asked to be expedited for these new e-mirrors that are going to allow them to see out both sides of the bus in case the cage stops their visibility. Also, some of those mirrors that are attached to buses have been the cause of several accidents. They're crashing the mirrors into other vehicles. So this is a employee protection plan that I think has some merit and I think will work. And some of the bus operators you probably heard have been spit on, punched, liquids thrown at them, you name it.
Baseball bats.
But subway operators and conductors too.
So, yes, keeping our employees safe is of utmost importance, just as keeping our riders safe is of the utmost importance. So there are some new congestion pricing lawsuits from small businesses. You may have heard about them in the news. I got to get through this, Mr. S. I'll get you, I promise. And that's even though Kathy Wild and, the main business organization has been very pro congestion pricing. So we will see how these all work out. Hopefully we will get an answer by April on these lawsuits so that the program, we will know more and then we can make capital program commitments and all kinds of other things and service improvements and all of that. One of the other things, yes.
This is what I wanted to tell you about this congestion pricing with the local, especially down in Greenwich Village. They have organized so well. I mean, so badly before, but they really have organized. And this is not just business groups. Kathy Weil is wonderful, but she does not represent the small business owners and everything else. And they have now gotten together, and I know some of them. It was started by the group in the village, but it's now spread all over the place, even
we've heard
to the fashionable Upper East Side. And this is, they're not letting go. And especially, and that's why I brought up this thing about the MTA now stressing the financial side of it rather than the public safety.
We had a long talk about that earlier, but thank you for that. I wasn't aware that it was the village that was a big part of it, but now I am. Let me go on to say that a discussion when we were talking about congestion pricing, license plate tampering came up, which B&T President Sheridan labeled, theft of services, which it is. Apparently Amazon was selling a gadget that flipped your license plate to a different plate or slid a shield down over the plate so it was unreadable to anything. $50 million in lost revenue to bridges and tunnels has happened in 2023. This is a major issue, much as subway and bus fare evasion and railroads are a major issue. Apparently, MTA Bridges and Tunnels, if they catch one of these, can arrest the owner and seize the vehicle. If a police officer sees a tampered license plate when they're doing their routine runabout on the streets, can only give them a parking ticket. They cannot seize the vehicle. MTA Bridges and Tunnels is looking for more power to do more with these phony plates. And obviously, it's a major issue as congestion pricing and the many readers that will involve are, yes, Sharon.
Why don't they just threaten to go back to having people collecting them, therefore backing up all the traffic? And
That's why, therefore backing up the traffic.
Yeah.
So they were saying that $50 million, right? $50 million
$50 million
in
lost.
fraudulent.
So just have
Yes.
people collecting the tolls again, and then people will say it takes too long, and then maybe they'll. shake it off.
Why can't the police seize the vehicle?
It's not an actual law.
Yeah, crime.
It's not a crime.
No, it's an alternate registration. plate. They can see.
Yeah, it's not,
But
so
it's not active when the police sees it parked somewhere. They're not seeing you beating it. You know, if it was at a fare gate or a toll booth or a toll area, then they absolutely could.
And it's not, so there are different, if the state legislature passes legislation that the governor put forward to make fraudulent license plates theft of service, then they would have more tools.
It's an alternate plate. They can seize the vehicle.
There's only reciprocity with New York and Massachusetts. So if it's Texas or New Jersey,
If it's a New York plate, if it's a New York plate, they can absolutely seize the vehicle.
They can seize the vehicle.
Yeah.
If it's a New York plate, absolutely.
Strengthen the.
I've done it.
yeah, if there's, there was just the presentation yesterday that Kathy Sheridan gave was really remarkable, and we should get her to come to a future
Yes, we
meeting and
should,
talk.
because you'll want to hear all of these things. It was quite something.
It was crazy. The bat and flippers.
Yesterday also supported at the urging of accessibility advocates. And we will get into that in a little bit, but there are now two kinds of exemptions that will be available from congestion pricing for folks who are considered disabled. There's the individual disabled exemption where you can have one of your vehicles have a special plate that enables you to go through without getting the congestion fee. And organization exemptions such as Access-a-Ride, obviously vehicles that carry folks with disabilities will also not be charged the fee. You can apply for those 60 days prior to the start of congestion pricing. And as we don't have a date for that yet, we don't know when that will be. There will be centers where you can apply in person and possibly online, but I'm not positive about that yet. I think they want to check. I think it does have to.
It has to be in person. That's what Q said.
Yeah.
Sounds like gypsy cabs are back.
Yeah, Karen.
But that doesn't include like if someone's taking Uber Health for a medical appointment.
They should have an exemption already.
Yes.
Well,
Uber Health would have the exemption.
The Medicaid should have program and Medicare should have some kind of option.
No.
But there's no.
No, well, so for instance,
They don't.
not necessarily, if someone is paying for it, right?
If you, on the congestion pricing website, under the FAQs, there's a whole section of the medical question that goes into details with links to click. Because that question has come up a few times. So we looked, and it didn't click all the links because I don't know all the.
They'll be there.
Yeah, I know all the machinations.
And Karen, I sent it to you already a couple of weeks ago. You asked me that question.
Okay.
But what about, and these are the calls I'm getting again, because I'm an old codger. So I'm getting calls from all the old codgers who still drive, some of them who have to take a special, at a certain age, you even take a test to see if you can still, but they're not disabled. They don't have, but they do have to go to doctor's appointments and things like that. And they say, our seniors, is there going to be, no, there isn't, and there should. I mean, you want to.
There's not an age exemption, there's not a professional exemption.
Well, I'm just telling you that people are really,
Oh, we know, we hear.
okay, well, since you brought up, and once the thing with the disability, the two categories of disabilities, that brought this up even more in the last week.
Thank you. You're absolutely right.
I think Doctors Row is going from the 60s to the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought just getting your eyes checked is not enough when you reach a certain age. I think reflexes need to be checked.
yes.
I can't tell you how many times when on the rare occasions I've had a rental car, I see somebody dart in front of me. If I didn't have reflexes, we'd have had an accident. So reflexes are just as
Yes.
important as eyesight.
Okay, so before we get into this conversation, Andrew, why don't you finish
Yes,
your
let me
report?
finish my report. I want to give you a crime update. Crime in January was bad. It was up significantly. Grand larcenies are the largest part of it. There have been some assaults as well, but grand larcenies was the key to January's bad numbers. Since then, we have gotten lots more police, as well as yeah, I don't know why it took so long, but we've got
200 last week transferred into our transit bureau.
yeah, and in February,
They came out
it's
of precinct.
already down 17%. Crime statistics. So the extra police obviously work. And if I say it once, I say it a million times. We need to, and there is a request for information out for the new turnstiles we saw at the end of the Blue Ribbon Panel's fare evasion report. Those turnstiles are pretty impenetrable. And since the vast majority of people committing these violent crimes did not pay their fare, if we can stop them at the turnstiles, we've not only helped the MTA's bottom line, but we've stopped crime in its tracks. So I keep harping on that, and there is a RFI out now for those companies. I believe those are all European companies.
RFI,
Yes, request for information.
information.
Yeah.
Not the ones we know go like.
That's before an RFP.
Yes, before an RFP, but we really need to get these new turnstiles. Everybody will feel a lot safer. And now we do have,
One question.
yes,
You said they put 1,000 more police in it. Didn't we put 1,000 more police in it before? And are they all?
1,000.
They put more in and you see,
They
you know, more-
transferred 200 cops last week out of precincts into transit districts, not temporarily assigned, transferred into the district.
That's right.
but there had been.
But then your neighborhood lost 4 or 5 cops.
Yes.
But there had been additional overtime that was funded
Yeah.
in last year's push. And I don't know if the,
1,000 were added to the Sunday.
but a lot of that was through overtime. And then they cut back on these overtime.
Yes, so we lost them and now we've got some
I
back.
think that the mayor said that there would be funding more overtime.
But these are real transfers.
These are all transfers.
Did the data show any particular pattern of borough or line?
Well, unfortunately, 3 of some of the worst incidents that have occurred recently have been in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not just the Bronx. Obviously, you're riding the trains, you can go anywhere and commit these crimes. It's a pattern. And one of the things that Chief Kemper said at one of the meetings is some of these folks that have been arrested have 50 on their record. And he says, why are they still walking around if they have that many?
What's the nature of the larceny? Cell phones, wallets?
Yeah, things of that nature, laptops, or mostly it's cell phones and grabbing cash if any is around. It's those kinds of things. The last thing I wanted to say is our Christopher Greif is now a new officer in ACTA, and he's going to tell you who the other officers are, and then we will go to Mr. X's question, and then we will proceed.
Yes, as you may see, my role a little more upgrade because they added some new. Jessica Murphy is no longer our chair, but we have new ranks. Oh, and everyone, just want to let you know, MTA newsletter has an error, which has already been caught, Andrew, before you. It's noted. Because I already got a oops already. The new executive members are, chairperson is, I'm gonna say his name, but I did send it into the minutes already. His name is Glenn. If you,
John Padula.
John Baduda, but he calls himself Glenn. That's the other way he does it. I'm just reading, he told me. But thank you for backing me up on that.
He
Thank
doesn't
you.
have a last name?
I was just,
Padula.
Baduda, he just said that.
Padula.
Yes.
No, Padula.
Close enough. Vice Chair is Michael Ring. We do have a secretary now. His name is Leon Blades. And they made a new title because the old title they didn't want to use because of Edith, because they will start crying. And thank God Trudy's holding napkins in her hand. It is called Community Outreach Officer, which is yours truly. That I'm equal to the chair and vice chair as well. So I still do the same thing, but working with the two chairs, plus the secretary works with us as well. So those are the new exec. It was an easy way to do it, so therefore it spreads out the responsibility, not one person, but it has to be combined to 4 people's roles to make sure that as 5 years already getting things accomplished and still we got to do a mission, we will still continue. But I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, you had a question?
Two congestion pricing questions. A, when was it supposed to start? Was it supposed to start next month?
It was supposed to start in late May or early June.
Oh, it's supposed to start, okay, and we got all these problems, these lawsuits. Have you contacted Eric Adams, Joseph Biden, and Kathy Hochul, aka the Mod Squad?
I like these.
Have I contacted?
Have you, Lisa, or anyone else, have any of you contacted Adams, Biden, Inflation Man JB, and Hochul, aka the Mod Squad, about the problems that you
I
mentioned?
am sure Chair Lieber has been in close contact with Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul.
And we actually regularly speak with elected officials on the state level and the city level about congestion pricing, but also about a number of other issues, including the governor's office.
Well, can you invite them here in the future? That would be nice. I'd like to see the Mod Squad in person.
I know.
Squad in color.
If you
I don't
want,
think
if
we-
you
I
have
don't think we can
anything to do,
Get through the press.
there are enough people who sit on this board and the other board who have contact with you guys at times
Yes.
with those people, so.
David Kupferberg.
And you know that.
David?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, regarding the congestion pricing, and making them, the subway, MT and LAR stations, wheelchair accessible. And the MT saying that they're delaying those projects. And the settlement that it made with the disabled community, wouldn't that be called breach of contract?
Well, they have till 2055 to make 95% of the stations accessible with the promise to do it faster if possible. And the progress that was underway was faster than anticipated. So now.
And 98% of Long Island Railroad stations are accessible.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
It's really impressive. But no, it's not a breach of contract because there is a court case now, or several court cases that have to be adjudicated, and they weren't of the MTA's doing. So of course, they didn't break the contract. They want to make these stations accessible.
I don't think there was a contract at all.
No,
There was a court settlement.
There was a court settlement. right.
Yes.
Okay, Maddie.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Well, my thing is, I want to talk about safety because crime is up statistically, and I spoke at this at both the Transit and Safety Committee. I mean, it's not the Jerry Springer show; it's real life. I'm not joking at all.
No, we don't think you are.
Yep, you know what? Something has to be done about it. They're Charles D'Souza says they're going to have to repeal that bail reform law.
Well, crime is a problem.
You have a speech issue.
It's going to have a political solution.
Yep.
That's the way it always works. And
You're right. You're right.
pressure has to build on, the legislature and the governor to do something because this system belongs to the riders.
Yeah.
Not the thugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andrew,
Thank you, Maddie.
Just to be clear for everyone, I'm sorry, just want to make this clear because some people might get confused. Certain, and Andrew, you can vouch with me because we discussed it yesterday. A lot of the elevators that are already being fixed, they're not affected. Sheepshead Bay,
No,
Church
it's in
Avenue,
progress. It's going.
Loma Metropolitan, 149th Street, Grand Concourse, they're not affected. They're still being worked. They're gonna be done. So let's be very clear.
There's still money out there.
That's exactly, thank you. That's what I said, back me up. That's what we did.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was, making that clear.
Okay,
Thank you,
Jason had a.
Jason, go ahead.
Speaking about congestion pricing, since that I've been very vocal about this for the past few months. Literally all of my speeches on Monday were about congestion pricing and letting the folks across the Hudson to once and for all settle the lawsuit because the reasons are obvious. They don't want to settle the lawsuit because one of the things that they want to do is that they want to move their headquarters from One Penn Plaza to the Gateway Center and buy new furniture. And then, Phil Murphy's,
It's not
2025.
One Penn Plaza to,
the current.
it's from their current location in Newark to a new location.
Yes,
in Newark.
that's correct, Andrew. And Phil Murphy announced in his budget speech that he's gonna give a bunch of money to New Jersey Transit. What's that going to resolve? Nothing.
Well, it's gonna give the money to New Jersey Transit by raising corporate tax.
Yes, you didn't hear what I said before. Lawsuits are not only coming from New Jersey. There is a very, very active group that started down in Greenwich Village, but it's now spreading at least all over Manhattan. I get calls about it all the time.
Judy, we had that
And
conversation.
I know, but Jason seems to think that it's only New Jersey that has the lawsuit.
No, he knows this.
No, he
From the
knows.
Lower East Side that are suing.
Stand truly.
So even if New Jersey was resolved, we still have all of this, and there are more of them popping up every day, like this small business group.
Okay, I think we've had.
That's why we have to fight against the enemies like I call it,
Agreed,
not in my backyard.
agreed.
Okay.
Oh, Andrews, very short before I wrap up. Premier buses like Mega Bus and the Hampton Jitneys, they are furious because they want quote unquote
Exemption, yes.
because they don't like quote unquote depart or arrive from the Port Authority bus terminal.
Well, and the new Port Authority bus terminal mega bus will have a berth. If they pay to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want to pay
No.
to park in the Port Authority bus terminal.
They'd rather.
Especially their buses are not
On the
100%
streets, and if you park,
accessible.
if you park on the street, then
You're
then
subject to the.
yeah.
That's the point.
Then
That's
Hampton
bus
Jitney too?
double-decker.
Everybody's
Hampton
got it.
Jitney parks on streets.
Right, they don't want to be in Port Authority?
Well, they go from
They go
neighborhoods.
in different neighborhoods.
They're not like.
Oh, that's right, I'm
from-
sorry.
It's the issue is
They're not
that if
accessible.
you are, it's not as much about
and they're not
the
covered.
interstate buses. It's about the commuter buses that are not, do not have a contract with the state to service transit.
I see.
But that could be bringing a school group from Scranton in, and they come in and they idle and they sit and park on the street, and they shouldn't have to be, they shouldn't have to pay.
I understand now.
Like, and there is an effort by a trade group that represents the buses, the subset of buses in that, of them that does serve as transit to commuters, to have those exempted.
Yes.
Included in the exemption of the commuter buses. And as Jano said yesterday, that's a conversation that's still happening.
Okay.
But and I'm not picking on Scranton. I just did.
Sounds like-
I just did.
sounds like you
I
are.
just did. But,
No, you're not. No, you're.
but for the Hampton Jitneys, that's a different conversation that
understood,
was,
understood.
Yeah, and that issue was raised at the press.
it
conference
was raised, and one of the things that Jeno has said previously is that honestly direct competition with Long Island Railroad. And what was raised yesterday was, is there enough service in the summer to meet the demand?
On the railroad.
On the railroad, and the railroad needs to buy new train cars, so now we've got the chicken, egg, and circle.
Which we can't because until pedestrian pricing.
Yeah. And do Chris.
And it would be great to, Andrew.
Yeah, in reaction to that, I'm like, aren't they making money off of this technically anyway?
They,
Maybe the buses and everything that come in.
I'm sure Happy Jimmy is.
I'm like, you're paying, I mean, I can understand if you were doing a volume discount, kind of like what do I like, delivery service and everything, and everything, and you're doing whatever, and then you just do something with the production, but to me, you're making money off of it. Why should you be exempt? You're making money off of it.
I hear you.
That was the argument that was made yesterday.
That was made yesterday by several reporters to Jano, yes.
Choir. Andrew.
Yes.
New old business?
Yes, old business.
Andrew, regarding Seventh Avenue on the B and Q, just to let you know, they are gonna be doing construction on the edges. Which, you know, they already did massive power watch and they did the video. So I just wanted to bring that up because that is related to old business, and when they did close the Q train, they did so much power washing. I mean, it was nice to when you get up, when you're passing it, at least you can smell lemony fresh for one day.
Lemony fresh. You just reminded me of something, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Several people told me about one of the station renovations that has taken place at Fort Hamilton Parkway on the F and G.
Yes.
And how the columns at the platform edge were painted.
Yeah.
I went out to check on that and they are painted. And my understanding of the renovation program was we were going to keep historic elements and not paint over original tile work. I showed it to Demetrius and he's talked to his people about it, and they're not going to do that again. It should have been cleaned as opposed to painted. It doesn't look horrific. It looks very white, but you can't hardly make out the tiles now that were around the columns. So I raised that issue with them, and we want to maintain the historic nature, but we certainly want the stations updated, fixed up, cleaned, made safe, and station edges, all of those things.
And just to make everyone laugh, because you know what was mentioned a couple of meetings ago, they said, you know, because they're renovating elevators, like 175. They're having a little, and this is a funny moment. Edith's plaque is still there, and they're having a hard time undrilling it. Let's just say.
At 175th?
Yeah, but let me just tell you, because if I do this, when they try to do it, they want. Someone got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's someone up there doing it, telling them not to take it off.
No.
Thank you, Trudy.
If they're gonna move that, they better do it very, very carefully.
Them touch her plaque.
No, unless somebody takes it, they're gonna trust someone.
Right.
And that was the joke going into it. Thank you.
Mr. X.
So we're gonna old
Thank you,
business double A. I say this before, Jamaica Station, Long Island Railroad. The bathrooms are constantly inactive. I see post signs on the doors. Closed, they're inactive, forced me to go upstairs to the fake A train, which is ridiculous. I'd like the Long Island Railroad president to investigate. Since the MTA head.
You're talking about Jamaica Long Island Railroad, right?
Yes.
So how is the A train upstairs?
No, I said the fake A train.
Air train.
Air train.
That's for authority.
I see, that's the fake A train, okay.
The fake,
Got it.
the fake A.
I know.
A train, don't quote you, but I don't
Got
think
it.
that's fair. And if I enter the station, I'm around the street level, the Long Island bathroom is close to me.
Yep.
I have to go upstairs to the fake A train bathroom, cross over.
Is there a sign on the doors of those closed bathrooms?
The clothes,
Yes.
in the last 2 years alone, they were inactive. So that was long before the current Long Island person came on board. He needs to investigate.
I will speak to the Long Island Railroad.
Since the
we're
MTA
talking about
head
Hector.
doesn't want to be bothered.
What does Hector say?
It's a homeless, the problem is right now, in Port Authority, there is an issue right now, because homeless level is up by 21%.
Yeah, we're opening more
bathrooms in the subways. So how is that not a homeless issue?
No,
Because.
in the Port Authority
Each side.
side, when you try to walk to, like, say you want to go to the air train.
Take a train.
That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the Long Island Railroad.
Long Island
Bathroom.
Railroad.
It's but it is related to that all corridor.
Yeah, but it's
The
Long Island
homeless
Railroad Station.
issue, this is what we were brought up at the last ADA task force meeting. We did bring up, Jason and Jesse can vouch because I said it, that there is a problem with bathrooms. Understand they're supposed to close by a certain time because they're only supposed to be open during rush hour only. During the middays, they're not, during after rush hour, they're closed. Even Atlantic terminal, it's the same thing. Problem is you have the homelesses damaging the bathrooms. Just today, Atlantic had to be shut early because a homeless destroyed a sink. And when I say destroyed, the sink came apart. It's an issue that it's been brought up to MTA Police. Port Authority has done absolutely.
Yet another reason to get the turnstiles upgraded.
Well, the upgrade turnstiles is at that station, Andrew. It's the upgrade turnstiles are in the J and E train. Cara was with me the day, I think you were there with us when we had that
Yes.
event.
We were there.
So,
It's in the Long Island Railroad Station, so
It's
it's
a-
better if there's a turnstile.
yeah, I agree. And I think if we can bring it up to Rob Free, I think as well as Annabelle, as well as Nick.
Maybe we gotta get cameras placed more strategically.
Agreed.
in
Not in the
that-
not in the restaurants.
Not.
No, near the door, near the outside the door. You
Near the
can't do in the
door.
bathroom.
Yep.
You do inside the bathroom.
Here's,
We're gonna
here's
do new
We'll follow up.
All right. But he has a point, but I just give him that.
Andrew, we're
Yeah.
gonna do new business? 'Cause we have a new-
Let me see if there's any other old.
I'm not old.
No, let's go to new.
Okay, this is something that's really weird, but I seem to get, I get weird things. And I have now
Comes with
gotten.
the territory.
Yes, I know. But I'm one of them from a very close friend who started cursing me out for the MTA, not.
Oh,
But it seems that, well, hers was a senior card, and the other two were also, half their cards. And they were at three different stations, one at at 77th, one at 33rd, and I don't know where the other one was. But they put the card through and it said not working or not.
In use?
Not function or whatever. The person at the at 77, they have taken away all of the health booths and there's nobody parading the platforms either, but that's another issue I'll bring up some other time. But at 33rd, found a station agent who said, well, on the back of your card, which I didn't know because we have different cards.
sure.
It has a phone number to call if you have a problem with the card. She called that. They told her that she gave them all the information. They said, well, they will send a temporary card. And she said, and what am I supposed to do in the meantime? They said, there's really nothing we can do. Now, it's not this person's fault or anything else. She got the temporary card and the temporary card didn't work. And that's when I got the call, okay? Then I had somebody in my building who also, and she's not a complaining type, who had the same thing at 77th Street. She got a temporary card. She followed the orders again. She said she can live for a day or two. They sent it, I don't know, express or whatever, but she got it. It took 3 days for her to get it. She used it once and then it didn't work, the temporary card. She called them again and they said, we're going to have one delivered to you. And the second call, it's.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yes. I don't know if
Is this all
following
happening
orders.
at the same turnstile at 77th Street?
No,
Or
I
80th
just said
turnstile?
one of them was at 33rd Street, only one.
I
at
thought that was a
77th.
different person you meant.
No, I am telling you.
Okay.
And the one was on, it was on the, I think. it
I
was on
think
the
she
second
should
half of
switch to
the-
Omni.
No, yeah, I believe it or not, and I won't tell you that the curse words, people just because, and as you know from me,
I know them.
can use the curse words when they need. And I don't know if this is an epidemic or it just happened to three people who happen to know me, or they called me because they know me and something strange.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Because the Metro card uses a magnetic stripe, is she keeping the card next?
There are three separate.
Are they?
Are they keeping something that could influence that? Like,
No, it's the same card that they.
no, but is
always use.
it being held next to something that can
No,
deactivate
it's
it?
in the same place. I asked I know all the questions to ask. All I'm telling you, and it seems almost like an epidemic. I
I'm gonna
don't
change
know.
to Omni now.
I don't know, maybe they were.
Andrew,
You
just
you
remember,
try,
the
I'll
reduced
give
fee,
you,
it's only half.
one of the people you know, so but I didn't tell them to call you.
Okay,
But if you
thank
want them to call you and they want to tell them to call, to switch to Omni, be my guest.
Okay.
You will hear some words that you haven't heard in a while.
Thanks.
No, but
business?
can we find out if this is an epidemic? or
Yes, we
something
can.
that's happening?
Of course we can.
Thank you.
New business?
Have to sign up.
Yeah, hold on, Mr. X.
Earlier this year at Atlanta Terminal. Okay, on January 1, I was there between 12 and 2 a.m. after standing on line for many hours without a bathroom break. For obvious reason, I noticed along a railroad bathroom closed. Remember, trains stop there at 24/7. So if trains can stop there 24/7, sure, they keep the bathrooms open 24/7. Either honorable under the MT. Starting how it's said, the Penn Station. I stood online for many hours without a bathroom on the previous day. I'm here at Hanson Place Station, Flat Rochelle.
Yeah.
Atlanta Tunnel, closest one of us to the Park Center.
Yep.
And you telling me I've been held at the Penn Station? I've been standing online
No, that's
on the
pretty
previous
ridiculous.
day for many hours without a bathroom break to watch the ball drop. You're telling me I have a break.
That's one of those silent major
generation
terms that should not be.
I don't think so. Law and Railroad President investigate. No, it's not his fault. I saw on for many hours without a back break on the previous day before the ball dropped.
Have you been to that terminal in the middle of the day and was it working? Or is it hours wise?
Normally, when I'm there, normally when I was there, the bed was available. But on one occasion, I think it was there after 7 p.m., after 8 p.m., and I was told it was closed. But there's no post that saying they get closed at 7 p.m., 8 p.m.
We need to find out.
Yes, law and order president should investigate because I'm not gonna say, as you know, trains stop there 24/7. Let's get the bathrooms open 24/7. I don't care if we have a homeless problem. Okay. I'm lucky I could travel to Times Square and stand in line for many hours without a bathroom break. I don't know if any of you can do it. I don't know if you have up for the challenge. I've done it many times, but if I have to use the bathroom.
Yeah. We'll look into it. That's a good help. Yes.
New business,
We have another hand raised, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make this, as you may realize also, we did open another train station, Tremont. I want to be clear, it's the 149th elevator. Somebody was saying it was the 150th. It is not. They did not decide what the next opening is. It is to be announced. And I got that text from you.
We've been doing like 23 or more a year now.
Actually, Andrew, you got the number correct. It is 23.
I mean,
If you add
unheard
Metro
of.
North and Metro North. And just to add one thing also no, because this has been brought up to MTA was brought up. I'm trying to, but I'm getting everyone's distracting me, the words.
Okay.
We do need to keep an eye on the homeless on the trains that stay in the tunnel. Right now, we have not seen that much on the C, but now they're coming on the R. So we do need to keep an eye on that as well. It has been put into the app, but I would
The C,
suggest,
the R and the E, the ones that do not come out of the ground.
make you laugh. E has barely, but the R is starting to get it.
Yeah, it's too
Well,
bad.
tell me about it.
We have
When the-
Maddie has his hand
Maddie.
raised. Take us home, Maddie. And happy birthday, Jesse. Go ahead, Maddie.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. Well, the first question is for Chris and Jason, because I noticed you guys were at the Tremont opening section. How do you guys got invited?
Come on, this is.
Why don't you guys take that offline?
Yeah.
No, Jason, you can't.
Next question,
Next
Maddie. You
question,
can
Maddie.
talk to them about that afterwards.
All right, I don't have any more context with them, but I appreciate your advocacy, guys. Really, I do.
Okay, wait.
Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. But
Any other business?
Yeah.
If not,
Move that
some of us have a very long day ahead of us.
CCAC is on March seventh.
Yes,
Jamie Torres Springer.
Definitely want to be here to hear about.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Amy Torres
Put that
Springer.
right to the RSVP list.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Jessica. Bye, Jess. I hope Brandon feels better.
You're not
Thank you.
Hold on.
Oh, are they there?
Hold on, I'm trying to unblur my background. How do I?